The thought of doing a chase scene on a moving, undulating bloodstream. I didn't think about how hard it was going to be. I just thought the animation potential was going to be so cool.
Don challenged us all in this scene to make something that was special, something different that you'd never seen in a Disney film before.
It's hugely complex, and it's the biggest sequence in the film. And we thought this was a really great way of showing what goes into making these films. We had an amazing team. They had to really work together to create this sequence.
You ain't seen nothing yet, kid.
The environment couldn't be more complicated.
Picture a chase sequence on the top of a train.
Except the train this time is in the sky, and it's made of creatures that are swimming through the air.
You have 3 generations of clades.
How are you my dad? Oh, you want to have that conversation? Well, when 2 people love each other. Stop talking!
We've got 5 human characters. We've got a 3-legged dog.
Flamethrowers, skiffs flying around.
Get on!
Within the overall action sequence, there are definite narrative storytelling chapters.
Who's he? My dad. What?
Everything in the environment is alive.
There's these hundreds of thousands of blood cells. It's probably one of the most complex sequences we ever done at Disney Animation.
Wall of monsters!
More than any other movie I've worked on, all the wonderful artists and animators had to work together at a level of collaboration that we've never seen before.
Stay behind me. Who's he? Ethan, meet your grandpa.
That's Jaeger Clade?
The sequence, which we call Don't Fear the Reaper, is the moment Ethan, Jaeger, Searcher find themselves at this edge of a cliff with a crazy drop.
Now what? Jump!
Instead of panicking, Jaeger Clade, the greatest hero, decides to push all of them off the cliff and luckily land on this bloodstream highway.
For this particular scene, Don't Fear the Reaper, I really tried to stress very early on, let's not hold back. We all knew it was going to be a very difficult scene to pull off, but we'll figure it out. You know, that's kind of our motto. Have fun, make cool.
That's going to be our crew shirt.
Have fun, make cool.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about animation is everything is done from whole cloth. It's a totally iterative process, and every stage will bring something new. We start off with visual development. Visual development inspires story.
The visual development, we start the first day of everything, and it goes all the way to the last day of production. So we have to go through the story, talk to the directors, and think about the best ideas first.
This sequence, we were responsible for designing the landscape. And so it's a big action scene. We wanted to give it some danger.
The scene starts with Ethan on top of this platform. So I was designing these branches thinking that maybe you can jump from one of them to the other one.
It looked like the Grand Canyon, and already I could see the potential in what that could be. And then we just kept honing it from there.
Follow me!
Qui-Gwin is an amazing screenwriter and brings this wonderful humor. He started off writing and then became co-director on this film.
In animation, it's a much more collaborative process than if this was live action. I can kind of share that responsibility of creating the world with everyone. When I'm working directly with my story artist, I kind of just write enough that they get the idea. I'm gonna just say they jump onto a bloodstream highway. That sounds cool. Let's go. And then they'll all say, what do you mean by that? And I can say, can you figure that part out? And they're like, yeah, cool.
We talk and we brainstorm. We'll storyboard things and try many different iterations so that by the time we're ready to build this thing and animate this, we feel like we know the most effective way of telling the story.
Don't Fear the Reaper is easily the most visually complex scene in the entire movie. From a boarding standpoint, it's very difficult to be able to track camera movements and moving characters and moving environments and make that all read in drawings. Our board artist, Javier Ledesma, his strong suit is scenes like this.
We are like the laboratory of the movie. We have to test and try different ideas. Some of them are in the script, some of them comes up in the conversation. The first drawings that we do, they're really rough, just good enough to be understandable for directors.
Originally, we had storyboarded it. The bloodstream was contained in tubes like arteries or veins, like in a body. And then a visual development artist named Kevin Nelson showed this artwork of the bloodstream being this kind of free floating. It resembled almost a school of fish or something like that.
The first version of the script happens inside of a kind of a cave, but then when Kevin Nelson did these amazing drawings of the red blood cells, like birds floating around, everything changes.
What Kevin made unlocked our brains. Like, oh, it doesn't have to be so literal.
It kind of just blew our minds open of what the potential of this scene could be in the movie. And Javier, who boarded the scene, we showed him Kevin's artwork. He thought it was really cool, and so he just did a whole nother pass at the scene.
In animation, we have, realized that you don't actually see or visualize as much until you put it on the screen.
So we actually cut the film before we animate.
I have the honor and the privilege of being able to be with the film almost from start to finish. My job is to creatively collaborate and partner with the directors, story leads. What I get from them are storyboards. What we pair with that is what we call scratch dialogue.
You're writing these jokes and you're writing these scenes, sometimes super emotional scenes, and you're getting a whole bunch of non-actors to do it.
We just have storyboard artists, animators, anyone in the studio who feels comfortable getting behind a microphone, and we just start performing the lines, and I cut it to the boards.
Help! Help!
Ethan! Move! Move!
If those words with these non-actors, if they can actually land, then with the real cast, it'll just be even better.
It's like a comic book that's come to life. It doesn't look anything like what you see in the final movie, but it's the bones.
And we will go through a cycle of screenings. The 4th or 5th, we start actually putting things in production.
And that becomes what I love. The French use the term the film maquette, the model of the film. Eventually, the environments team comes in and they'll start building the world.
One of the biggest challenges is to create this world where everything is literally living.
So the first thing that we need to do is we need to work with the art department on what makes up this world. It's a big open space with all of these platforms that are kind of out in the atmosphere, and there's trees, and there's little plants growing on them, and we'll get sketches and drawings. Sometimes they'll even do little 3D models to tell us, this is what I'd like that world to look like.
This sequence, design-wise, is a very complex set. The challenge comes from the camera is constantly moving.
They need to travel a large distance, so the environment needs to be huge.
When we started building the set, I think somebody measured it. It was like 3 miles of platforms.
We've got a chase scene on a very uneven surface that is taking massive turns around Strange World. And layout, they had to put cameras with all that.
In layout, our primary job, we're the digital cameramen. We set up the scene, and so we translate the storyboards into CG. We start with the staging and the blocking, and then after that, create camera movement. The way the camera moves can completely change how a scene feels.
We're shooting it like live action, but just in an animated environment. As you're watching the sequence, it's easy to kind of get lost in all of these visuals. So our main job was to make sense of it all.
Are there too many Reapers?
Probably.
If we start here, do we have any place to grow?
And even though it looks like it's a simple thing, there's a lot of things that are happening that you didn't really think about. Why is this shot looking slow, but the next shot's looking fast? That when you actually have the actual objects in there, you see for the first time.
Each time we mess with the bloodstream and make it more fun and moving around more, this feels better and better.
It's feeling amazing.
It's super exciting. Like I'm a little blown away, you know?
We kind of go through and try to fix all those issues. Those cameras that we're actually planting go all the way down to final. Once we figure it out, it's basically the blueprint that the rest of the production has.
It is great. Wow. With every film, the layout artists are getting so good at kind of acting with the rough models. They can tell you so much of what the scene is actually going to be.
We do the ugly version of the film, and everyone else just makes it pretty.
So crowds was a huge part of the sequence.
Crowds are not necessarily just crowds of humans, which we certainly have at the beginning of the film and the end of the film.
Without crowds, there would be no Strange World. In the crowds department, we were responsible for hundreds of thousands of creatures.
We've got blood cell superhighways, massive crowds of the macrophages. There's a lot going on.
The stream of blood cells are considered crowds because the blood cells themselves are individual characters who are individually animated. If you look carefully, you'll see that they're not all moving at the exact same speed. Some of them are going faster than others. One of the things when we were working with layout was how are we going to be able to compose and figure out the timing of how these characters are going to move across these streams.
We need to provide animation a surface to animate on. And this surface is alive. We didn't have the technology needed when we first started. The very earliest version of it is just like a ribbon strip, but that didn't give it the energy needed. So we developed what we call the layout train. It's basically like conveyor belt of blood cells that we can bend and morph into whatever shape we want. Once we got that, we're like, all right, we can make this scene.
He's awesome!
He is not awesome!
He just saved my life!
You know, I was a part of that rescue too!
He just saved your life!
I got a little dizzy in the breathing art.
When we feel confident with where the storyboards and the layout are going, it's time to record the real actors.
Don't worry, I got this. Don and Kui, they put so much thought into creating a film and a work experience that is loving and inclusive.
All of our actors are amazing. They were just so game to try anything.
Splat? His name is Splat?
Don is open to anything. And even more inspired when you gave him something off kilter or what he didn't expect.
Guys! We're stuck!
A lot of times they would do something in the session that we thought, oh, that's funny.
Move, move, go, 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 go! Move those feet! Pick them up, pick them up, pick up those knees!
Yeah, pretty funny.
Oh, no, 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 don't you mom me! Once we get home, your butt is grounded for life!
Oh, I like her.
One of the things I'm most proud of with this movie in general is the animation. It's some of the best we've ever done.
We were in conversations for months for this sequence.
For this particular scene, because there was so much broad movement, a lot of animators would just show us just really rough hand-drawn passes before they would commit to doing it in CG.
In animation, it's a 3D puppet. You can manipulate the joints of the character, facial muscles, everything in the character is movable.
Every creature was so unique, so we work with the TDs and the rigging team to develop the rigs. What does this thing look like when it has 10 arms, and how do we rig that so it's not crashing through itself?
The animator or the artist is kind of putting his or her soul into that.
We really wanted to sell the danger that they were in, so while they're talking, we needed them to really be like stumbling and falling. Where that became a challenge as well is the voice actors are in the studio.
Reapers! Reapers! Reapers coming!
And they are not jogging on a giant plane of blood cells. So we had to pick the right moment in the audio to actually animate someone falling. That was a very unique challenge. While all these things are happening, how do we make each of these characters experience something in their own way?
And I love the slow motion shot with Jaeger with this flamethrower.
This sequence animation had to really work with effects tightly.
Effects is responsible for any smoke, water, goop. There's a lot of goop in this movie.
You got Jaeger, who's got a flamethrower that's torching stuff along the way.
For the flame coming out of the flamethrower, in layout, it might be represented by just like a yellow oval coming out, and then that gets passed on to the effects department, and they'd make it awesome.
Seeing the expressions on Jaeger's face, finding those entertaining choices is what makes a great performance.
Not talking to my son!
You have thousands of things that are all moving on screen at once, so we worked on really controlling the eye and understanding how to show the audience what matters in the story.
The villains of this piece are the macrophages, or the reapers, as we call them.
We did a lot of testing to figure out what the macrophages were. There's this concept of pencil mileage in 2D animation. Pencil mileage is the idea of like, there's a lot of lines in a character, so you have to draw all of these little bits of detail, and it takes longer to do it. The macrophages in particular have a lot of whatever the CG equivalent of pencil mileage is.
Okay, so they're smarter than they look.
I could have told you that.
And on that note, Splat was probably the most challenging character.
We spent probably the better part of a year figuring out how we were even going to animate Splat.
Splat is definitely one of the hardest rigs that we have on this show. By far one of the simplest characters, but don't be mistaken, there's a lot of technology behind that character.
Splat!
It was this incredible challenge. Splat has been crafted by every single one who got to touch and animate this kind of funny, goofy character that can kind of surprise you at every, step of the way.
Tech animation is an art in itself.
If Jaeger's jumping from blood cell to blood cell and his beard doesn't move, does it really look like he's doing that at all? If there's not wind blowing across that hair, do you know they're going so fast? If the clothes aren't fluttering, do you know they're really moving at a breakneck speed? Or we're technical animation supervisors for Strange World. We augment the performance, craft the cloth and hair and other secondary animation performances for all of our hero characters.
So for this example, where they're running on the blood cell, we need to go find a reference. We need to see how their clothes is moving, how their hair is moving.
And we've got Legend, Legend being entirely covered in hair. All of those hairs have to be simulated.
Thanks, buddy!
It is a strange world, and it did come with strange challenges. Splat jumps on Ethan and starts riding along his backpack, who has organelles floating around inside of its cellular structure. We want those organelles to bounce around and respond, and so we're using that tool set for that. The goal, in terms of the way that we're crafting the secondary performance, is believability.
The computer will calculate how the outfit should react every time when we do a big batch of renders. Because we use a new technology, there's always epic fails.
Sometimes you'll be watching a sequence and all of a sudden someone's hair will take a sharp right or left turn off their head.
Sometimes we get the hair explode out of, like, what is happening?
And, it's always entertaining. Lighting is probably one of the most magic processes. It really gives you that final image of what the world looks like.
The characters traverse a large swath of space. When they jump off onto the bloodstream, they're literally like on a train, basically, and it's heading towards who knows where. The challenges faced there is like, we need to feel a sense that we're moved through a lot of space.
It's a very dynamic lighting situation where it looks bright one way and dark the other way towards the Reaper hives. This sequence in particular, it allowed us to really define what we wanted this world to look like.
It's not a world that we're used to seeing. It's a world that we're creating from scratch.
It was really challenging because there's a lot of wide shots and the characters may be very small in frame. So we basically guide the viewer's eye to where we want them to look.
There are some interesting things that we have to kind of figure out. For instance, one of the characters actually dives into the bloodstream. How is that going to work?
We're the ones that are there, like, the first time the directors get to see what their movie's going to look like. All the pieces finally come together. It's that first moment where it's like, this is the image that's going to go out to the world.
Render is when you take all of the geometry and make it into a picture.
It's almost like baking the recipe and you get a pretty cake at the end.
That's sequence 290 right there.
Yeah, the square where it goes off the top.
Every movie that we make gets progressively more complicated.
Time for a barbecue. That ain't good.
Every night we render all the shots. And we look at what's not working, and we figure out how we can make it work. We made a heat map that basically shows the heaviness of the scene. So you look at the frame, and you can see the red stuff is heavy, the blue stuff is not. Most of the time, there's a thing in the back that's really red, that's taking a super long time, and it's very easy to fix, but it's very difficult to actually see that.
You've got huge sweeping blood cells, you've got a macrophage crowd, so we're really stressing the system. Some of those frames were taking 1,000 to 1,200 hours to actually render. The platforms are covered in extra detail that you probably won't see, except when you're really, really close up. And that's where tactics can go in and start removing things.
Nobody's gonna notice from frame to frame, but it's gonna be 10 times faster. There's so many moving parts, and getting them all to work together, it's literally magic when it happens.
The music score for this is wild, and Henry Jackman, who we worked with before on Big Hero 6, is doing a score that is going to, I think, blow people away.
The thing that I like about that scene is there are very distinct moments.
Because when you first see the Reapers, there's a sort of overall suspense to it before our team of characters launch, fully into action.
Henry Jackman, he's brilliant. Collaborating with him has been just a reminder of how big we wanted this film to be. We wanted something that felt that huge and rich.
It's thrilling, it's exciting, it still has enough danger. The jeopardy comes from the Reapers, and musically you can be specific on continuing to hit them with our scary, but it has enough space in there for bursts of heroism and bursts of levity. You can suddenly take the Strange World theme and do a quick fanfare for Splat, as long as you kind of glue it all into one.
When it comes to music, that's super challenging and exciting because everything comes together.
That was brilliant.
Final shots are coming in and we're loading everything that's like beautiful, lit, final renders. We're also starting to ramp up with our sound design. And this is something we do with a sound designer at Skywalker Sound.
The sound designer, they're gonna start, designing the hard effects, and there's a lot going on, in terms of sound. And it was about creating a whole world.
I wanted this movie to evoke those wonderful adventure stories. And Shannon Mills, who I'd worked with on Big Hero, came on to do the sound design.
With animation, you're starting with a totally blank canvas. It's up to us to give it a sonic landscape to match the fantastical visuals. Even though these things don't exist, it's finding the right sounds for the Reapers, footsteps on a blood cell. We want to try to root that in reality as much as we can. So we'll often use existing sounds and change them to make them a little more fantastical.
Great idea, Splat! A character like Splat, for example, needed a voice very early on, and Shannon Mills and his crew were able to just create this super cute character.
Samson Nesland on my team was instrumental in creating the voice and sound design for Splat.
We actually ended up using mostly human-based sounds for Splat because that's what worked best emotionally. I would record a lot of weird vocal stuff, altering the sounds after the fact, trying to find emotional qualities with keeping that otherworldly quality that Dawn and Kui were after.
The team did a fantastic job, and it's always a dance, balancing music, sound effects, and dialogue, and everyone really pulled together to make this amazing scene.
I mean, the final result just blows you away.
Can you not show off while we are running for our lives?
You're working with some of the most talented people in the world when it comes to this stuff. They came together and created the sequence that you now see in the film.
These movies are fun to make and special to watch because you're watching the work of hundreds of people.
The scene is a true collaboration between every department.
When I see the final result, it's amazing to see.
We're all super proud of it, and we love to explain how we make these imaginative, complete fantasy worlds.
There were so many wonderful times where I could kind of just step back a little bit and let all these super smart, talented people kind of run with this idea. Don't Fear the Reaper nailed the promise of what this movie could be.